allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We are one short. Rick is on his way back from a wedding down south, and I visited with him this morning, but they are headed north, so... Anyway, I look for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion, and is there a second?
I second the motion.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All same sign, motion carries. I was just reaching for my keys.
Everybody jump.
Okay, how about the minutes? I heard someone make a comment.
They left me off of the, Motorola Tower meeting.
Okay,
Okay, we'll add you there.
Other than that, I'll make a motion to approve them.
I have one motion for approval on the minutes.
Second Dave's motion on that,
With the correction.
with the
All-
correction?
Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries. General public concern. Being none, Dean sent a text and said he would not be in. Evidently they got something going on down there, so
Maybe he and the county attorney are together.
they are trying to get the lease for this, thing put together so that all of the wording and whatnot is correct, so that was what he told me. While we're talking about him, he also called on the, Wednesday after the courthouse was closed, and I think that, you know, overall, I don't wanna be the person that, when you're the chairman, you never think about it until you're sitting in this chair and you get to be the one that says, close the door. But Dean's been asked by several people that, you know, they don't get the opportunity to go home, whether they're working secondary roads, whether they're working down at dispatch. So, his question was, well, we're gonna get, are our people gonna get time and a half? Being they work, everybody else went home. I said, I don't think so, but I can ask the board. Sounds good, but, you know, he says, well, then why do we just not have a policy that if the weather's not fit, then we just, if you don't feel comfortable, you're gonna have to take comp time. I said, well, I don't wanna ever be in this situation where we're open because I made the statement, we gotta stay open, and someone gets in an accident going home. That's, you don't ever wanna be that way. But we have to ask for, you know, the people that were working, 'cause they're doing the, you know, they're out on the snowplow, they're out on the...
That kind of perturbs me a little bit. You know, when I was at school, the janitors worked even though we called school off. There's different kinds of employment. They knew that when they took their job. I don't think we ought to even consider that, in my opinion.
I think-
And we can't put a policy in effect because it's in our personnel policy that way, that, when the courthouse, you know, inclement weather, the courthouse closes, this is what happens. We would have to change personnel policy.
Well, we knew, just true to form, the minute, we...
Which can be done.
Right, the minute we decided that things were getting bad enough out there that we'll close it stopped snowing, but you still had 8 or 9 inches of snow and it had been blowing and drifting and whatever, so I'm bringing it up because they told him I would.
I think we had this question brought up several years ago once, and we didn't do anything about it then either.
Well,
It's nothing new.
We talk about essential employees. They don't have a choice. They have to be there. Courthouse people don't have to be here.
Well, part of it,
The courthouse policy doesn't cover the dispatchers and doesn't
Right.
cover secondary road.
and I think
It covers
too,
the courthouse.
the courthouse is a public office, and so it's also public safety to a degree,
Right.
that and hopefully hopefully the public knows it when and if the courthouse does get closed because of inclement weather. It's just, they, not only do the people that work here not need to risk their lives, the people that would come here, hopefully, would know that it's closed, it's bad, stay home. So I think it goes both ways.
Well, usually the first question that I've asked Peggy when she's called is, well, what are we doing? We have people coming in? Well, it's pretty quiet.
Yep.
So that's your indication there isn't a whole lot of people moving around in the public.
Right.
And when businesses start letting out and, schools
Schools, yes.
done.
You're never gonna be able to make a perfect call, like you said, Bruce. We close whichever facility and the snow quits, but it was an ugly mess. I mean, it's impossible to write a policy for every last contingency, because you just don't know. I mean, you make your best judgment call, I think that was the correct one. The essential services are just that, feel for guys, whether they work for the county, the state, or whomever, have to be out on the roads and do their job, but, they did sign up for that. It's a rough deal. And, there's times when it's blizzard conditions, they pull the plows off the roads, we know that. So, I mean, it's never gonna be perfect, it's always gonna be a tough decision.
That's a good
I'm sure
point.
Carl can speak to that.
That's a good point, Eric.
Over the years of being in school, you look at the schools and they say, you wonder,
About 50% of the time, you're right.
it's about 50/50. You're about like the thing of it is, if you're not the weather forecaster, they get by with it. But when you're in a position that you have to make a call, whether it's a school delay or closing or a courthouse closing, it's never gonna be perfect. But we're gonna always do the best we can with everything. And it's typically involves safety and public safety, and I just don't think we need to pursue trying to write different policies. They're in place, and they typically work, and thank God it's not a week-to-week occurrence. Hopefully we're past it. Will it happen again next winter? Probably.
My guess is Dean got that request from some employee, and he had to bring it to us.
Right.
So
Yeah,
he did his
it's-
job.
And there again, I wouldn't say, you can understand that. It is, it's a rough deal when they have to do that.
They live in the country, take vacation.
Right, I guess that was the point, and I don't wanna... I went to church yesterday and I forgot to pray that I'm hoping we're done with snow, but...
Somebody else must have, Bruce, because it looks like it's
We
the
got
weather's going the right
We got a
direction.
window that hopefully it's good, so, anyway, we'll put that to rest.
Good.
I make a motion to move that animal control lease, agreement until next meeting.
We don't have anything in front of us about that, do we?
No.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought they gave you that.
No, I don't
They gave me a
see- I don't
copy,
think
and I thought
so.
you had
I've
copies.
read it, but
I'm sorry.
I'm not
Okay,
gonna
you wanna
move it until
go
Dean
ahead a
can be
week?
here.
Okay.
I'd second Dave's motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to just table that and move it till next week's agenda. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
I will get you copies, you guys, I'm sorry.
Before can I jump out of order and run down and do the claims, and then we can pass the book into the next room?
Yep.
And get the girls, they're anxiously waiting for, anybody have a chance to look the book?
I make a motion to approve the claims of $70,261.07, and drainage, $20,827.88.
All right, those are the numbers I saw.
I'd second that motion, I agree with my numbers.
Motion and a second, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. Okay, John brought down copies of the, I'm assuming, here's a couple for the press that he left on the desk here. Peggy, I have questions. I was visiting with Rick this morning, and if this thing moves forward to, and I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but this goes to, the reading, does, Rick asked for clarification on, does this thing have to be read, the entire thing?
Doesn't have to be,
Well, that was his question.
as long as you have copies available
Right,
for the people to look at.
for anyone that
And
wants
anybody
to.
could stop ahead of time and pick it up if they wanted to.
Okay, so then his other question was...
And I don't have a copy of that, so I can't make them copies. Thank you.
His other question was, is depending on what our agenda looks like for next week, he wanted to make sure that we either do the agenda so that we don't have all of our, if there's a huge outcry or a lot of people here, that we spend an hour and a half doing that, and then we still have to go through the board. So he recommended putting the agenda stuff, regular stuff, and have that towards the end of the meeting.
That could be
If
good.
we did that. So that was...
Good
Rick
thought.
to,
The other question I have, if we go ahead and get this and schedule the first hearing, and we have reason to wanna change that at the hearing, then we start over again, right? We have 3 more after that? It just sets...
the reading.
Yeah. Do we have to publish it again and that kind of thing?
You don't have to publish it at all before you start. You have to publish it before it's effective.
Okay.
You can publish it, you have that option, but you
Okay.
don't have to.
But if we have a hearing and
In
somebody...
fact, I even brought the copy of the code, because after
Good.
you mentioned that, I thought, I don't think that's how
Okay.
it has to be,
All right.
so. Shall be considered on and voted for passing at 2 meetings of the board prior to the meeting at which it is finally passed, unless the requirement is suspended by a recorded vote of not less than a majority of the supervisors. However, if a summary of the proposed ordinance or amendment is published, prior to its first consideration, and copies are available at the time of publication at the office of the auditor, the ordinance or amendment shall be considered and voted on for passage at 1 meeting prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed, unless that requirement is suspended.
My question then is, if we have that in process, we have a first reading, and somebody brings up a good point, we want to change something, do we have 3 more meetings after that?
That would be a county attorney
I don't know.
question, because it does not address that in the ordinance, or the
But
code.
we at least start the process.
Yeah.
Well, that was another question Rick had, was, we wanna make sure that clarification on the code, or clarification on the ordinances is crystal clear, so that there's probably no chance that, we've had some where you waive second and third reading. Well, I think there's gonna be enough interest that you're gonna wanna hear the input for the first, listen, gather for the following week, go to the second, and see if we've changed anything, and I guess we'll get clarification from John, as to how, if, say we changed the distance, between 1 and 2, how does that mean we have to start back over?
Well, you always have the option of waiving the second and third reading, so it almost seems like even if you did make a change, you could waive it the second time,
I see.
if that's what you wanted to do. And maybe that's the out for it, I don't know, but I will ask John, I've got a note here
All right,
to make sure.
so is this doesn't have to do with that, that's for Ben. All right. So anyway, I guess that's where we're at. John brought this copy of the changes down, and he is in court, so I guess I'll shut up and you guys can decide what you wanna do here. You look through your changes.
So we don't have this on the agenda until 9 o'clock, let's take a couple of minutes to kinda read through it.
Okay. Oh, if we look through it here and see anything, then we can bounce down and do some of that other stuff.
Would you like me to make some copies for those that are here?
I think there's 2 copies in there for the press. Jerry, did you get a copy? Did you like, okay. Probably
So we
make-
had 2 for the press, so we'll need another one?
Yeah.
I think John made all the changes we asked for.
Looks like it. Got through a couple of them yet, but...
So tentatively, that was set for May 7th, right? That was what we talked about last week. Which is hard to believe it's already May, almost.
That's what I've written in my book, May 7th. Everybody be home planting corn that day.
We can only hope that at least there's corn going in the ground somewhere.
That's if Eric can get some later numbers for us.
Well, let's keep our fingers crossed. So far, we're probably so good. If we've been talking the first week of May planting, we're hanging in all right.
I saw a planter going yesterday down between here and Ames,
Serious?
seriously.
Wow.
It
They
didn't
were
look like,
pushing
it
the
looked
envelope.
kinda muddy, but he was out there in the field.
They were pushing the envelope. I've heard southeast Iowa is gaining close, the guys getting going, but it'll be a day or 2 here.
But one thing about it, the equipment we have, we catch up in about 3 or 4 days.
I said, I'm not terribly concerned that's the first week of May planting, getting going, we're in pretty good shape yet.
That road's supposed to close today out there on the highway. It may be 3 days.
Actually do it, huh?
Yeah, right.
Well, I haven't seen what the drifts look like in the ditch yet, so if they'd be able to,
They're pretty well done.
okay? So do you wanna
Doing?
take any more time with this, and we'll come back to it at 9 o'clock when it's scheduled, or what do you wanna do?
Looks like John made the corrections that we asked him to. Bring it back at 9 o'clock to discuss it.
Okay, so we'll come back to it, put it on the table here for a few minutes, and we got drainage, we have, how about the authorized chairman to sign a certificate of Army, status?
And I did not make copies of this for you, just because it's just a standard routine thing we do every year. The cannon out in the yard,
Oh, all right.
every year we have to certify that's in good shape, it's just a one-page form.
That's why I say I think it needs to...
We even painted it for him last year, didn't we?
Yes. Did they-
I move we approve, have the chairman authorized to sign the annual certification of the Army status of the cannon out in the courtyard.
I
We have a
second that
motion
motion.
and a second. Any other discussion?
Isn't that a yearly deal?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's what I thought when I saw it, but...
Yeah, every year it's a one-page sheet we have to fill out and say it's in good shape. and
Okay,
I'll go out today and take a picture of it, 'cause
Did
we have
they
to take
paint
a
it
picture
last
of
year?
it. Yeah, they did last fall.
okay.
Yeah, Michael Pine came up and took care of it for us.
So, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. just anywhere? Official,
Let's see, I think it's down.
says official?
Yes, that's you, yep. It's in a different place everywhere you look, isn't it? Thank you, Bruce. Anybody wanna take a look at it?
No.
Send it that way. Just in case.
Do you have anything other than our committee reports, Peggy?
Let's take a look and see here.
Most of the other stuff is drainage and Ben.
We're way ahead of schedule.
Another update on the opioid litigation,
Oh, yeah.
that's, confidential, so I'll just send that around and let you guys look at it. We had an email from Heath Hockenberry with EMC Insurance wanting to know if the county was gonna bid out their property and casualty insurance. We currently have that with ICAP and IMWCA. So I thought, well, as long as he asked, I would ask you guys if you want to bid that out. I would probably have to get someone to put specs together, 'cause I don't have any idea how to even do that.
And that's with, which insurance did you say that was? Right.
This is EMC, and we currently have, ICAP, or in IMWCA.
Which covers,
Which is liability, property, workman's comp,
how long have we been using that current agency or that service?
we've been with them, what, about 6, 7 years now? We're finally to the point, you have to be with them so many years, and then you start getting a return on your, workman's comp rate, and we're just starting to get those.
Is there any issues, problems, is there any reason to, because what you're bringing forward is, should you explore other companies?
Right.
I'm just, wanna know if there's any problems, any issues with the current,
Are we
provider?
satisfied with what we're getting
Yeah.
for where we're at? Or do you think it justifies searching and,
I don't know, they require you to do a lot more stuff than the other insurance companies have ever done, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, they're trying to get you to be safety conscious and make sure to try and get your premiums down for you.
Right.
And I know some of the other department heads, complain from time to time about all the paperwork, but,
As far
I
as the
guess I
rates,
feel it's okay.
as far as the rates go, that workman's comp premium's the same no matter what company you're with. That's one of the premiums that says the same, I don't know about the other. I think we've been pretty satisfied. I remember we went through this 6, 7 years ago, and we made the changes, and we investigated at that time, and we thought we had a pretty good deal. And if we don't have problems, I just think we ought to stay where we are. My opinion.
that's what we're looking for?
That's kinda what I'm driving at, is if is there a reason to, because didn't you mention, Peggy, that it takes some rigmarole to go through to even explore the other options?
Yeah, it does take some preparation to get it ready to bid it out.
'Cause, yeah, and then they need the information to look at, to come back with where they would be for premiums.
I know the last time that we did that, we were with Aben's, Marty Curran, and they drew up the specs for us because we don't have that expertise. But you always think when someone draws the specs up and they're in that business, are they tailoring it more towards
Right.
what they have, or rather than just an open? So, I don't know where you'd go out on the market to get it, and an individual who's qualified but was not in the
Right,
field. selling.
non-biased opinion.
There you go, an unbiased opinion, yes.
Yes.
If you changed it, would you lose, where you said something about you would start, you're starting now to get the...
Workman's comp, some of the
Yeah.
premiums
Would
back.
you have to start that, would that start over if you changed?
It would depend on the company. Some companies make you wait a few years before you get,
So there could
before the
be-
mod factor starts coming down.
Yeah, so there could be a offset, you
There
know.
could be.
For a little bit of savings.
Yeah.
And you don't know
If
if you're
any,
gonna have...
because yeah. To me, it sounds like we could just maybe leave well enough alone at this point in time. And I like what I hear, that it's been with this company long enough, there has been some savings. In other words, if you have less claims, your premium is affected as such.
Mhm.
Is that, am I thinking along, I'm not an insurance person, but just
Yep.
thinking how that works. And the fact that it deals with workman's comp, you would probably want a company that wants you to be safety conscious. And,
Exactly, and they
Oh.
do come a couple times a year and meet with Melody and I. They'll meet with the sheriff, with secondary road, conservation, go through the buildings, look for safety things.
right?
They'll write up little things for us, you know, you need to fix this, or you need to do that. And then we have to reply back that we've taken care of it.
Yep, and I mean, you would probably wanna deal with a company like that. And maybe they all are, I don't know, I'm not in that line of insurance, but, it doesn't really sound like it's anything wrong, anything that needs to be fixed.
And they do have a lot of, extra features, there's a lot of safety training they can provide. I don't know if that is accessed, by the safety people, but
Mhm.
it could be.
Right.
They have like a whole library of things you can go online and find,
Right?
so.
So your direction is you want Peggy to tell them that...
I think we're
at the present
fine.
time, we're good?
Yep.
I think so.
We appreciate the offer.
Yep.
We're happy with the way things are, but we would entertain in the future if they...
Well, if it's not broke, you know, don't fix it type thing. I mean, and sometimes the grass isn't always greener, and it creates some more extra rigmarole for maybe nothing. I mean, if we had some dissatisfaction or whatever, it'd be a little different story, but I think that sounds like the consensus, leave well enough alone and let's keep it, see where we're at.
Okay. All right, I got 8:57:58, are you, there's a list that's right on time. She told me in a meeting Friday that she was gonna be here like at 9 o'clock.
Just kick her out for a few minutes.
Her voice is coming back, so she might be mean this
Oh, she
morning.
doesn't have a voice, poor
Turn it
kid.
back, I don't wanna be accused of holding confidential information.
So do you wanna, we close enough to 9 to start this? 'Cause I know she's got an armful of appointments that they're dealing with for the week.
Anybody want coffee that's sitting up there? Yeah, are you drifting off yet?
Yeah, just about,
I might take So,
Bob?
we,
Speaking of drifting off.
we have the changes that we had instructed or asked John to change again on, last week. Tentatively, our schedule, the way the motion read was, we were gonna get this changes put on paper, and then we were going to see what, May 7th would be the first, reading. As we were talking a few minutes ago, we're trying to get the criteria for if something were to be changed, how the ordinances, how that affects the way the readings are for free reading. So we'll have to get those, and we would have next week, right? That we could make sure all of the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. So I guess with that, I'll let you guys, anybody from the board have any just topics to talk about the changes, or?
I think John done everything we asked him to do on it. Do we have a noise ordinance?
Zoning.
He told me it's within, the zoning, I think.
Okay. That's the only thing I see is that we still got that 60 decimals in there. And if we have a noise ordinance, that might cover that part of it, so. Other than that, I see all the changes we asked him, he's done.
Well, I stated at last week's meeting, this doesn't fly for me, but, I mean, I'm one person on the board. I publicly stated this is not a good enough ordinance for what we're dealing with. There's changes upon changes, but, you know, and I agree, you know, John made the changes that were tasked of him. I'm not gonna argue with that. You know, we've had good discussion on the public hearings and going down the road, and I think we're on the right track with that. I am just extremely dissatisfied with the way this ordinance has been put together to date. It's a good start, but it is not finished in my mind. And we've already been through that, it's kind of like beating a dead horse type thing. Comes up, well, what more do you wanna do? And then we got to this point, and here we are. So I do, appreciate the fact that we have protocol with public hearings and all of that, and that's the way it should be, it's all public knowledge. And, we're gonna move forward with it, but I state again that this ordinance does not do its proper diligence as an ordinance as it's written, period.
Wouldn't that be why our public hearing before Eric to get...
Like I said, I agree, the process and everything, there's no argument. This is the way it's structured. We've had good discussion. I mean, there's a lot of positives, but like I said, my vote is not as written, this ordinance, and that's why I wanted to mention the other things first. It is gonna move forward, and we do have a chance to hear from the public. Of course, it's public hearing, so that's what that's about, and, I think that's just the point that we've reached. But I would have liked to have seen more work done through, and to come to the conclusion of this ordinance than what's been done. It's better than, we started with nothing. I say it's a good start, it's just not a good, conclusion.
Well, that's your opinion, and I guess you have the right to carry however the votes you wanna carry. And I guess the simple fact that if we don't move something, we're just, in December, we're still gonna be chasing this in circles, because we haven't done anything in almost 4 months.
With that discussion, Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the ordinance as changed and set May 7th as the first public hearing.
All right, we have a motion to approve the
I'll second that, so we can
changes
discuss
that
it.
John has put forward, with the second. Any other discussion?
Question, can you make that in two separate motions? 'Cause I have no argument about dates. My only argument is what the ordinance says printed to date. But I have no argument with, any hearing dates.
I made that in one motion, so my motion is we accept what's written and set the 7th of May as a public
I know,
hearing. You second that motion?
Yep, so we can discuss it.
So yours gets...
but my discussion is, like I said, I have no argument with May 7th. My argument's with the ordinance as written, so that's why, depending upon how it goes, that's really my only discussion. I've stated everything else previously.
I have a question. Has anybody checked about the courtroom? Because I think you're gonna need the room.
Well, I guess we'd have thought there would've been people here today, knowing that it's on the agenda. I don't know if they have court next.
If they do, we can move downstairs to the little courtroom.
Yeah.
Are you doing a public hearing, or aren't you?
May
just
7th.
doing
May
the first?
7th would be
But
the
it's not a
first.
public hearing though, right? It's just,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it's
is.
just a review of
It
the
is.
first
Yeah.
reading. So it's not an actual published public hearing.
It is.
It is.
It is.
No,
No,
you don't have to publish a notice saying we're having a
Public
public
hearing,
hearing.
right.
No, it's
But
just
it
a
is-
reading of the first,
It is not a
First
public
reading,
hearing.
nope.
It is a reading of the first
Yes.
draft of the
What
ordinance.
is there a difference between a reading and a public hearing?
public hearing, you have to publish notice 4 or 10 days ahead of time.
Yep.
No less than 4, no more than 10.
We-
Not a public hearing, it's a reading of the first ordinance. Never on an ordinance, this is no different than any other ordinance we've had. You just schedule it, you have your public meeting, and they have a chance to talk, but you don't have to publish an actual notice in the paper that says what you're having. You're here,
Where does
your
the
agenda
public-
will be,
Where does the public hearing portion of this come in?
there isn't.
There isn't.
This is it, now, you've had comments for how many months from the public?
Yeah, it's just merely an agenda. item.
Without really having a formal,
Reading.
yes.
So there's a differential as it's an agenda item reading. Of course, that also is an agenda item, so public meeting, not a public hearing.
Iowa code does not require on an ordinance that you have a public hearing. If you were to sell county property, acquire county property, those require public hearings.
Okay.
Ordinances do not. Ordinances are by agenda, first
So it's
reading,
an
second reading,
agenda.
third reading. Technically, if it's an ordinance that seems to be controversial, the board has gone all three readings, but you don't have to. You have the option to
Okay.
waive the second and third if that's your choice.
I know previous...
Or even just the third, or whatever.
Previous discussion has been to have 3 readings,
Mhm.
so I just want a clarification, so it's not, as you stated, Peggy, legally required to have a public hearing. It's set up as 3 public readings of the ordinance.
Right.
And basically, the public readings would be, we would discuss this ordinance as it's printed. And that's what I asked her this morning, 'cause when Rick and I were visiting this morning, I said, does this have to be read word for word at the public meeting?
Mhm.
And he said, make sure you ask Peggy that. So I asked,
Through the years, I have read entirely the ordinance. Sometimes I've read part of it based on what the board has told me. Sometimes I don't read it at all. So if you guys want the entire thing read, we certainly can do that.
And then you did mention something about copies available.
Yes, I've got a couple extra with me, and I can make
she
as
would...
many as I need for anybody that
She
wants
said
to
she
stock
could
that one
make a
up.
stack to put out, if people come into their office wanting to read through it,
Mhm.
they'd have the ability to at least look at it prior to the 7th.
I think that's a good idea,
Yeah.
to have the copies available.
So I have a question, Jim.
Yes,
I know this is dragging on for a few months, but why are we setting the hearing the first week we're probably gonna be out in the field full time?
past years, if we would have waited till when? When do you want it set?
Well, you could've said in June, first part of June.
Well, it doesn't seem like we can make anybody happy, because we've been waiting for winter to get over, and we were trying to put the ordinances, put it on paper, and it just seems, gets pushed down the road. If you want it in June, I don't care, we can do it in December. I'd rather we did it next January, when I'm out of this seat, to be honest.
You know, it is a very...
You can put that on the front page, I don't care. I'm tired.
One's out.
I mean, it's like it's a no-win situation for us. And all we're trying to do is get an ordinance, get the paper, the copy, so that if this thing does go through, that we are protected, our tile, our roads, our stuff that we have interest in. But
I say, I have sympathy for you, planting corn, but there's 9,600 people in the county, and probably 20 of those would be planting corn that day. So we have 9,600 people that's welcome to come. If you can make the sacrifice, jump off that planter and come in for a half hour. There's other people besides the corn planters that day that's gonna be affected.
Well, I know that. And another thing is, we got these people out there on these acreages that work during the day.
Mhm.
So they're kinda concerned too. 'Cause, you know...
So then do we do it at 6 o'clock that night, and then when
It's a
they,
possibility.
well, I'm just asking, and I'm not trying to be smart,
They should
but
be included in one of the readings, I think, in the
then,
comments.
I guess that would be perfectly fine, and we can change it to a different, I don't have the ability, the board has to decide what they wanna do, I'm just supposed to be the referee. And then if it's 2-2, I get to be the clown that they throw the name on, that he made the vote. So,
I think
we
anyway,
have a vote.
I think we go ahead with what we scheduled, and we determine it's necessary to change the third reading or second reading, we do so at that time. That's just a discussion item.
What was it, Eric?
I don't think that big a
The
deal.
other question is, can this be published in the paper?
Mhm.
And then again, it gets back to the legality, like the public hearing, because of the type of ordinance. It doesn't maybe have to be, but can it be?
Yes.
Well, do you know what that would cost to put that in the paper?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying anything about
I'm just
what it
asking.
costs, I'm just,
It's online right now,
That's what I was
everybody
gonna
can
throw
watch
out
our
if they
board
wanted.
meetings and they can read the papers. We got 2 newspapers here. I think, and radio, I think we got enough publications. People know what's going on. We talked about it for 3 months. They don't know about it now, they've been, had their hole in the ground.
But it is true, there's people out sitting on acreages that didn't know anything about it, because they don't get the Humboldt paper.
They don't listen to the radio, they don't get the Fort Dodge
They don't
paper.
listen to
Would it be fair to ask the press if they would make mention the copies of this ordinance are available at the auditor's office?
No problem.
Thank you.
And I don't know why you couldn't put a little ad in the reminder saying that they're here. That wouldn't cost a bunch.
But
It would be a lot cheaper than publishing the ordinance.
Yes.
I guarantee it. I would suggest that, because this is public, this is for the people. And I particularly agree with Pat, being intimately involved in agriculture, this strange year, but yes, that, we're hopeful that planting is the first week in May. And having said that, a lot of the area and the things and the people that may be affected by this ordinance possibly are planting corn, because it is rural, i.e., that is farmers. You know, to speak to Carl's point, yeah, there's 10,000 short people in this county, short of 10,000 people in this county, that, probably not as much about the guy, no offense, Jim, that works business on Main Street of Humboldt versus someone that lives out potentially where these projects may ever occur. So, I think that should be noted, that it is worth thinking about timing for the people to attend that want to attend. And then, having said that, is just because of the way this is a reading, is there any way to alter your time? I mean, I know it's a board agenda item, and I know our board meetings are 8:30 in the morning on Monday. I'm just asking the question, means there's no public hearing, is there a way?
Board has the authority to schedule their meetings
We
for
can have a
whenever they want
meeting
to.
whenever we want.
Mhm.
And if somebody's got an objection to it, they can write it in a letter and send it to us.
By the
Yep,
same
those
token, if
also
we
can be
would've
read.
been
Mhm.
beating this thing up for months, we could've...
We may have had it by now.
And we'd have been all looking at the snow, with our ordinance. So, I mean, I'm not against doing whatever you guys wanna do.
Well, I don't think, as I've stated in the past, we're not sitting in this office telling the farmers what they can and can't do on their property. That's not our job. You've gotta get along with your neighbor, so if you don't want the wind towers, then your neighbor does, then you better sit down and talk with your neighbor and get it worked out that way, 'cause we're not gonna sit up here and tell you, you can't have it on your property.
We're not saying that. We want parameters. I live on a farm that's gonna be in our family 100 years. I have another farm that's 128 years. I just don't, I want some parameters so I don't have to leave that farm if I'm gonna have a tower 1,500 feet from my house.
Right.
I mean, I just want some safety issues and some, I have concerns. 'Cause I can't move my farm.
Right.
But you know
And
what?
the people that I'm dealing with are, they're land managers that don't live around here.
What are
The
you,
people that don't live in town,
I agree with
or that
you.
live in town, I mean.
I agree with you, but there's other 99,000 people in the county
Give that-
that look at economic development, their tax bills and so forth.
But there's
It's-
also
it's-
on development, because there's, and I talked to another supervisor, when you start getting hawk setups and these windmills in your county, then there's, you don't see new, I mean, I know 2 houses that are probably not gonna get built
Yeah.
now on a farm.
That's pros and cons to
I
everything.
mean, so, I mean, there's on development too.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, we gotta look at both.
And Humboldt County's not different than the other counties in Iowa, though. That's what I,
There's counties out there that are getting mad about this. They're getting to talk, they're getting
I haven't
tired
talked to
of
any of them
this
yet. I'm sure you're right. I just haven't run across them.
stuff. Well, I have.
Well, I agree with Dave, you know, we're not tasked with, delegating what people do with their property, per se, but we are tasked and delegated with protecting the people under oath of our office. And I think that speaks to what Pat's saying.
if you can't protect everyone,
No.
Well, but that is part of why we're here, is
Right.
to look, and I think you used a good word, parameters. There's parameters. You know, and I don't wanna try to start citing examples of why there's parameters of everything that some people agree with and some people don't. There has been forever, there will be forever. Not everybody agrees on everything. There's good arguments on both sides, but, you know, the argument on, I think, the side is, you have to have things set in said ordinances that are setting, parameters for both sides. I'm as concerned with the people that are for these, wind turbine things, as I am for people that aren't. Because there's things written in the ordinance that protects both. So, that's why I say, and I think to not get too much further off track, it's getting back to the point of when these readings occur, that this is, something that the public needs to have the ability to attend, to listen, for public comment, like we're here right now. We want to make that available to them, not, we can't do this in the back, dark, smoke-filled room anymore. It's public meetings.
Don't we still have to accept this, approve or disapprove after the reading? So we got time to make that decision to next 3 readings.
And like I said, my initial comment, the protocol of all this is correct. I mean, it's been in existence for years, so that there is time to review.
We might not approve it after the readings are done, but at least we gotta get the wheels started.
And I appreciate Bruce's thought process of moving this forward, and I do agree with that entirely. I wish we were at this point back in January.
Well, I think
And we don't I think we pride ourselves on, as a board, of not kicking issues down the road, trying to get them to the forefront and get dealt with. And I certainly appreciate that, and want to continue to do that. So, try to look at this with a big picture perspective, but, we do have due diligence to look out for not just land and money and that, but people. The thing that starts land, money, and everything else is people, and then it goes down from there. Doesn't work its way up, it starts people and then goes down.
I agree with it all,
I agree
but
with you, yeah.
unfortunately, we're...
We gotta, and I agree with moving it
Come
forward.
together, and if we aren't gonna do it, then let's just throw it in the garbage and get it over with.
Yep, and like I said, I
We have a
appreciate
motion
that.
and we have a second. And the motion was to accept the ordinance
Approval ordinance has changed
as changed,
and set May 7th for the first reading.
so, and with that, I'm gonna call the question of those in favor,
Aye.
opposed,
Aye.
motion carries.
It's my understanding that after 3 readings, we still have to approve that ordinance.
That's right.
We have to accept, we got all kinds of changes we can make, or disapproval between now and then. At least we got the process started.
What this ordinance does, looks like to me, is protect the infrastructure, and that's what we're here to do.
Clarification on the ad for the reminder, we've got 2 weeks before. Do you want me to put the ad in twice, or do we have 2 weeks? Let's see.
Well, you have...
You'd have this week, which would be
This
the
week.
25th, and then the week of
As
the...
long as you're done by
third.
noon today, you can get it in, right?
Yeah.
I think
You want it
isn't
in twice, or
noon,
just
Ken?
once?
I would think twice, 'cause you're talking ad, we're not talking publication.
Just a little notice
I would
there,
say
telling people
twice,
copies are-
and that these, because of Bruce's salient comment of the cost of this, put the ad in twice, that these copies are available.
Available for your reading.
Makes sense.
Okay.
You could probably put pleasurable reading.
Okay.
You can always embellish your story, make it sound better, that
Exciting copies.
exciting reading.
Okay. I haven't seen Ben around ten minutes early. Brent, did you have anything you wanted to say?
No, I just wanted to stop in and see where you're at in the process, as long as, I think the process, from what I heard there in a couple minutes, sounds like it's on track, so. But
Well-
we just.
I'm allowed my copies, I can get you a
I'm not
copy.
in favor of
You're done.
hurrying the process as long as you get it
Right.
right. I mean, we don't have a big timetable, they're not gonna start construction anytime real soon. I know the company would like to find out where we're at before they start moving ahead with things, but let's make sure we get it right.
I think that's...
Well, I like
Month 4.
your word,
Year.
process. I mean, that's where I am, and it is a process. We want, and like you said, we wanna do the process correctly.
Well, this started with a lot less of this paper that's in this folder, that I think we've got every ordinance from here to, well, we got them clear out to the
About this
western
file.
half of Nebraska. So some of the ordinances, and it's a combination, so it isn't like we just throw together a group of papers and said, I think this is gonna work.
How much have you guys relied on just other county supervisors? I mean, have you guys been in contact with a lot of them and just kind of touching base with them and kind of just feeling out what they've done in the past with this?
Have we?
I've talked to a lot of them, informally,
Yeah.
other meetings.
Other meetings, we went all,
And-
four of us went to, Hampton.
And what do they say? I mean, do they say that they've been in similar situations in terms of just both sides being, pretty, steadfast in their views, or, I mean, what have other counties said to you guys? in terms of
The comments I got, everyone that's approved it, most people are happy with it. They said there's always a few people that's very unhappy with them, but they had to move on. No matter what you do, there's gonna be, some people don't like it, and they said that. I don't care what topic you come with, that's gonna be, we can concrete a road, and some people think it ought to be asphalt, some think it ought to be something else. There's always gonna be some dissenters, but you have to make a decision and move on. That's what they told me.
Our next topic is, with Ben, is the intern county engineer. And he still has the tag intern because we haven't had time to
fire out anyone?
figure out, where we're going with that project. So, 4 months into the year, we're still trying to get some of the stuff done. I'm not saying, but it just seems like we keep push it, so it
Well, no
isn't like
one's
we're...
criticizing your job, I mean, you guys are doing a heck
No,
of a job.
I don't know about that, but
Right?
I guess that's the point. Somewhere we gotta make some decisions, and we've done, John has been down here, and I think you all heard John last week. We asked to make some changes. He made the changes, then he comes back the following week and, well, we didn't like the way those things sounded, so, well, what do you really want? Well, he did what we asked him, but we didn't like the way it sounded, so, well, I'm gonna go back up, and he brought him down today and said, I'm going to court. I got court, so you guys...
He was probably the best court date he ever had.
So, I guess that's, we're trying to push it forward and not run anything through. I don't hope...
I like in this situation, years ago when I was still in the school business, we had a big fight over, we have all-day kindergarten, and we have not all-day kindergarten. And there was a few people that fought that to tooth and nails. Now they're happy about it. We had the same fight where you moved ninth grade up to high school or you skip it down here. We had the same war, but people lived together and got over it. I don't care, there's always gonna be dissension. You gotta do what you think's right for the majority.
That's a good point, and we're gonna find out. You wanna know about talking to other county supervisors, and I won't name any county supervisors in particular, but, one, a neighboring county, he called me personally. I do know this man, and, he said, they've been dealing with this exact same issue in their county, and he said that, I went out to some adjoining counties not that far away that have had wind turbines. And he said, it's informal, but he said, I want to talk to the people that live there. And this is informal, this is not scientific, and he'd be the first to admit that, but his takeaway, when he came back to his own county to think about this, was that it created a phenomenal amount of hardship, dissension among neighbors. He said, I talked to one couple that was highly favorable, and they're the ones that had the most wind turbines on their property. And he said, I talked to a lot of other people that wish they'd never seen them, that created a lot of hardship, and it steeled his resolve to strengthen their county ordinance. So, to say that, you throw this out there, yeah, there's dissension, but once something gets enacted, then everybody's okay with it. I believe that's incorrect.
It's kinda like school reorganization. Look how many people thought the world was coming in when the county schools closed, the rural schools, and then the small schools closed. The same thing's going. There's always, I remember one time I worked in a school district where the school board wouldn't talk to each other, because they talking about, two of them were on one side, two on the other, and they thought the world was coming to an end because they're gonna go to the next town to a school. We're always gonna have controversy.
Right.
We gotta live through it.
I guess
You gotta do what you think's right for them.
You can't chase perfection, because perfection is never gonna come in something like this.
No, and we're not trying to chase perfection, we're just trying to do what's correct, and given the mounds of information that are out there. So, I'm not sure all of Carl's analogies are correct, and I don't really want to make a lot of analogies. I'm just going by what I have researched,
Right.
What I've heard. You asked the question, if
Right.
we talked to other supervisors, absolutely have.
Good,
And I've talked to, other people that live in areas with wind turbines.
which is good too.
And, I've gotten you know, and I say, it's all non-scientific. This isn't the Gallup poll. This is, you know, you have to preface that.
Right.
So it's who you talk to, what their opinion is.
Right.
But, looking at it with the big picture thing, you know, it isn't, I just cannot get the idea that something is out there and then everybody's just gonna get used to it and gonna live with it and it's gonna be fine, you know.
Well, I would ask you, Eric, we got 2 weeks before the first reading, to come back with whatever, and I know you guys, you and Jerry have talked about the Cassuth County ordinances, but when we read through that, I guess you said you're not happy with the way this ordinance is written, but we've never been able to figure out what we need to put in it that...
Well, I
I
have
asked that question.
wordage, and I tried to, you know, bring it up at the last meeting and was more or less shot down that, you know, we wanted to move forward with this, and I'm all for the move forward part. I just wish we were moving forward with a better ordinance. But we've had the discussion, and I don't want to keep, as I always say, the old adage of beating the dead horse. You know, we're doing that properly, and I know that we want to move forward with it. I'm leaving it to, you know, the public comment, and Carl's even mentioned that that's why this is in place. There's the readings, and there's the commentary, and there's the thought process. You know, nothing is voted on, decided on today, other than the first reading of it,
And the
so.
$50 question is that company, it's that Phantom company, we don't have a clue who we're even dealing with, but if they don't sell an X amount of windmills, they aren't gonna build them.
Right.
And I don't know what that number is, and, 'cause I've never been to a meeting, and
Nope.
we're trying to decide how it's supposed to be set up.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I'm trying
if
to...
it's 100 windmills, if it's 50 windmills, I don't have a clue.
And my thought process is, whatever Phantom company, makes no difference. I want the ordinance to address any of it.
Right.
Whether there's...
a question you can ask people, and one of the calls that I had was when a person said he didn't want any over that, in that part. I said, so you own all that property? No. Well, you shouldn't have the right to tell your neighbors what they can have, like Dave said.
Mhm.
And the flip side is, you know, are you willing to have your taxes raised? Because sooner or later, we need more income. We aren't getting a whole lot of building going on in this town, or in this county.
Mhm. Oh, I've heard that,
We have to figure out,
been through
if we
it.
mention raising taxes, then we're evil.
Well, I've had people so adamant to the fact of, wind turbines in this county, they would be willing to pay higher tax rates.
Have you talked to people who are in favor of windmills? Because so often we come to these meetings, this is not to take away from you, but, you know, Jerry's in here and he's telling you guys the negatives of the situation. And, you know, ever since we've been talking about this, there hasn't been people on the side for windmills. So I'm just curious, how many people have you talked? What? What are you talking about?
I'm assuming that's gonna happen at the reading.
Okay.
I'm
I'm just curious.
The quick, short answer to that is,
She said
Well,
on the other
they-
side.
That's her job, though, I mean, she's the economic
She's
development.
Have I-
a job that we...
Right, I'm
we
talking
the
about,
board asked her
people like you,
to
the
do.
general public, you know, your job's not to come in here
We
and
had
talk
that,
about
we had the
windmills.
room full of people here one time, weeks, months back, when
Yeah, yeah.
we had brothers, one on one side, one on the other.
yeah, your quick question that is, yes, I've talked
Okay,
to
I'm just curious.
several people that would be more favorable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just curious.
So, yeah, I'm, like I said, this is why I always preface it by saying it's not scientific. I'm not out going door to door, you know, with my clipboard taking a poll. You know, and I don't want that to come across.
They don't get enough signatures from the people that own the land, it's a dead horse anyway, so the farmers are gonna...
There's a lot of, yeah, it's good discussion. I mean, that's what we're here for, and we just wanna make sure that the opportunity for this good discussion goes out to the public as well, and that they have the opportunity to voice their opinions.
Well, I just wanna go on record, at one time, we were almost 14 minutes ahead of schedule. And we are now right at Ben's time, so I'm gonna kick the horse and say, Ben, come on up.
They were gonna do that, and you weren't quite here.
I thought about waiting till 10, actually.
Oh, Bruce is happy that you came at 9:30.
We've been prank calling you.
Morning, John.
Morning. going late for work this morning, the first weekend they hadn't moved snow in quite a while, is it?
No, I think all of them were probably like me, they were happy to be back to work on Monday, just from
Yeah, just from the
the
Friday.
3 hours of picking up sticks and gutter work and fixing things that the wind knocked down.
Right,
Yeah.
They're happy to be back at work and not move snow.
that's right.
Yeah.
And happily it's melting, that's the good thing.
Yes.
Yeah, we're spreading the piles that we got at our lot right now, trying to get that to dry up. A couple of our guys are taking down all the plastic bags that we got covering our detour route.
It is officially,
It looks like we're putting up detour signs today, so
we're officially kicking,
we're actually getting to start
49?
construction, just
wow.
3 weeks late.
That sign was still flashing last night.
What's that?
That sign was still flashing on C-48 last night.
Yep, we're putting up barricades right now. I got a plant calibration meeting this morning over at the Gilmore Quarry, and schedule for that looks like it's gonna be about 2 weeks of milling the road, and then 2 weeks of paving, and then probably a week of shouldering, and the road will be...
Question I have on that, I have people ask me, even though they're milling, if somebody needs to go down that road with a corn planter, they still do that, can't they? Is it-
While we're milling,
Yeah, yeah.
the only time that they will not be able to be on the road is when we're paving.
Right, about 3 days, 3 or 4 days.
Once they go by their place,
Yeah,
it'll
yeah,
be 3 days.
yeah.
So, I mean, when that starts, they'll start at 169 and they'll pull west.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll have a hard closure at 169, and that'll be hard closed for probably 3 days.
Okay.
And then the next closure will be, Kansas Avenue, where Lanes is at. So for 3
Mhm.
days, Lanes will have to run north.
Yeah, a mile at a time.
Or west and south,
Yeah.
I guess.
But they also will have prep time for what they're going to do. I mean, they aren't gonna want a tractor running down the road after they've swept
No.
it and got it all prepped up
Right.
for,
Yep, and usually they've got the broom running ahead of the
Right.
paving machine.
so we'll just keep our fingers crossed. The farmers will be told by the people out there that, you know, they can see
Yeah,
how
this
things are
is-
moving.
Yeah,
the
this is
stages.
status, so,
Are you talking this week, are they gonna start milling?
yeah, they'll start milling tomorrow is what I was told, so.
And that's about a 2-week,
10 days. So, I haven't heard if we're working Saturdays yet, they're talking about it just to make up for being 3 weeks behind already. so.
Trying to catch a few of the days.
I'm just trying to look at the logistics of that. Like Bruce said, they'll notify them and,
It is what it is.
yep.
I'm pretty sure they're gonna burn the midnight oil, 'cause I'm sure that,
They'll run sun up,
Yeah.
sun down.
yeah, so we'll do what we can do, try to get back and,
There's no good time to do it, no matter when.
No, but, you know, after this 5 weeks or whatever, they should have a good road for the next 30 years.
Correct.
that's what we hope. They'll be paying for it for 30 years.
First thing that I've got on the agenda is to review a driveway permit for Linda. I believe you guys all have copies of that. Basically, the reason that we had to reject is because of the number of driveways that they already have on their ground.
It's just going in between the two houses for
This
the
is-
grain bin?
This is going in between the two houses to a grass lot that he doesn't have access to right now. I'm told that he's looking at selling possibly one of the acreages, and that person is also interested in, the buildings to the south of that acreage. So if that's the case, he'd be losing a couple of these driveways. Sounds like he wants to park his trailers in this grass area and doesn't have a driveway to get into it. But this would be something that is getting constructed by, I believe, Marcel.
This would be in between the big house then and his house, his earth house.
Yeah, the, partially
Yeah.
underground house, it'd be just north of that.
Yep. Well, most of that out in there is residential, so I see no problem with it.
Right, like I said, the reason we had to reject is just because of the number.
The
Right,
number, and
they
that's
have.
according to your ordinance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
numbers
Did you
figured out.
mention in your statement that possibly even a couple of these might be removed at some point after this one is installed, or?
They'd no longer be his if he sold the
Oh.
other acreage.
Take it out of his...
They'd be, oh, okay, I
It would
didn't,
reduce the number of driveways that he has,
that yes, which is
because of the amount of ground that he's got, yeah.
part of his reasoning for this, is he may sell some of his other properties with the driveways.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Just,
Do you have the address location?
It's on K Road.
Up by River Oaks. Yeah, that's a lot of residential.
2170 K
yeah,
Road.
it's right north of that.
3 houses there anyway, so.
You see any issue with that? You don't wanna jump to conclusions?
Because it's all residential right in
Yeah.
there.
As long as he follows the driveway policy and gets his 6-to-1 slopes, and I think it requires...
Depth of grade, if there's any culvert involved,
There'll be a culvert, yeah.
and make sure that's, we've been through that how many times, that it knows what depth that is
Marshall's
installed.
good.
Marcel's gonna do it, so we'll...
Yeah, I'm not worried about the depth of the pipe with Marso. Usually it's the fly-by-nights that come in.
Right, but just wanna bring that up, because how many discussions we've had on, everything's fine, pipe wasn't deep enough.
Yep.
This,
Well-
so there's no issues with it.
If we need any ditch clean out, then we would take that in and let him know, so that it's all taken care of at one shot, as opposed to digging it out to
Even so, yes.
make us all look...
Are you alluding to the fact is that, would there be any, I mean, you may not know this off the top of your head, in this section outlined, any reason that ditch would be close to needing to be cleaned out in any of those areas?
I don't believe so. There's not much for siltation in this ditch. I know Marcel was out there doing some work for him, putting in a new tile line, and I think there was only 4 inches, which is basically just peeling the tile off.
After this discussion, I move we approve the request for driveway by Lynn Miller as presented.
With that, we have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All the same sign? Motion carried.
Ben, you had on the agenda to review resolution 2008-17, so I made copies of 2008-17?
Okay.
Okay, is that right? I didn't know if you would have it with you or not.
I did not bring that. I brought, basically an updated verbiage of it.
Okay. There's the old one.
I'll need that one.
Last week, we talked about,
Did you get a copy of that 2008, 17?
I got that one.
Yeah.
Put it down.
Yep. And then one for Rick. And here's copies for you guys if you wanna have a look at.
So last week, we talked about, the resolution that, discusses how the county handles, tile crossings with respect to, private property, private tiles. Currently, we follow Resolution 2008-17, which says that the county will provide either a maximum of $1,500, no questions asked, permit, or a person can request additional funds by following Chapter 468.6, which is filing a petition where downstream property owners can file for damages, determining if what they've got for a tile line is already suitable. There's quite a few steps involved with that. Last week, we talked about updating our policy to follow something similar to our neighbors, which is still the $1,500 when it comes to crossing a granular surface road, but it will pay half of the cost up to $5,000 towards boring a line under a county highway. We talked about, what it would cost to backfill with rock, what it's gonna cost for asphalt patching, assuming that you're gonna have more than one patch, and basically the 5,000 is similar. Like that was in the $300 to $3,500, assuming one asphalt patch, but if you had two, then you're up there in that $5,000, $5,500 range.
You also mentioned something, I think, in your email about, do we put a cap on that? Because of, speaking of other counties'
Right.
resolution,
There are some counties that,
have so much money.
set a max, they say, you know what, we're gonna set aside 15,000 or 20,000, and when we've reached that amount in crossings,
That's it for that year.
we're done paying.
Whose budget does that come out of?
Ours.
What's your thoughts on that, having worked through the budget this year?
On one hand, it makes sense, typically tile crossings, we usually get 6-8 a year, I think, you know, at the $1,500 range, so you're right around 10,000, between 9,000 and 12,000. And then obviously if you upgrade this to the, $5,000 for borings, you know, at some point, you wanna be able to budget it and know how much you're gonna spend per year for these type of crossings.
Well, it doesn't make any difference how many times you put rock in that over at Thor, where we went across that tile.
Which that was a county main, so that
Right.
doesn't apply to...
No, I know, but I'm just saying, no matter how many times you fill that in, when you patch it, it's gonna drop.
Right.
And then you still have that, you know, that second patch that, and that regardless if it was that one or some tile that we went across with the, like Harold has proposed, then it's gonna settle. So,
And nothing's to say that a boring isn't gonna sell.
I know, that's, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other.
Well, the possibility of boring would be significantly less. than-
Settlement,
If you,
depends on how big.
How big the
bit-
pipe is
Right.
that goes
How
through
big
it.
the pipe it is, I mean, if they use a larger bit than the pipe that they're sliding through,
you always have that
You're
gap,
gonna
yep,
have
the
that dip.
potential, yep.
but it's a cheaper patch, I suppose, for...
You didn't
settlement from
dig up the
boring.
road, yeah.
Right.
Are you more comfortable from a budgeting standpoint to put a cap on this? Have you, as a secondary roads budget, included, tile crossings in the budget item?
No, it hasn't.
So you'd have to consider, do you want to, just to, you know, that money's there. Peggy can speak to this, being, she's intimately familiar with budgets. If you put X dollars in a line item of, in this case, tile crossings, and whatever that number is, and if you don't use it in that fiscal year, where does it go?
It just stays within the fund.
Stays in that fund.
Doesn't stay in the line item, it just stays in the fund.
So it still stays in that, in the secondary roads department in this case.
But when he's putting his budget together for
Mhm.
next year, say he put 20,000 and you only use 10.
Right.
So next year, he's gonna say, well, I know there's, say, 2 guys that have already talked to me about it, so I'm gonna just put the 20,000 in.
Does it make
They're gonna use it.
does it make it better or worse if you put it in as a line item in your budget, is what the question is? Because you'd have to if you wanna set a dollar amount.
Right. I guess my suggestion, if we're looking at doing this and switching to the 5,000, is see how it plays out the first year.
I think you're right on
I
that.
would think that would be...
And then if it becomes an issue where we're doing a lot of
Yeah.
these,
You might have to cap it.
then we might have to cap.
Good point.
You remember the discussion, I believe just from a week ago, the boring, of course, hard surface roads, you know, and I don't expect you to know this off the top of your head, but, you know, a way less frequent occurrence, probably.
Right.
So like you said, I would probably agree,
You know, assume we're gonna do 2, maybe 3 borings a year.
if
And
that,
another 4 or 5 crossings on a gravel road.
right?
Harold's got a question.
Could I ask, Ben, how many borings have you done in the past 5 years? Do you remember at all as
None.
far as hard surface roads?
None.
None. That was gonna be my comment, because I don't think this 5,000 underneath paved roads, would be that significant, because most of the time, you have drainage districts allowed, or you have drainage districts that can pay whatever the crossing is, or into the budget of the crossing.
To my knowledge, they don't pay that crossing fee.
County still has to do that.
Secondary roads still, I mean, where they cross north of Thor, where Nels Patterson crossed north of Thor, the county's been maintaining and filling that with rock, and it's scheduled to get patched this year, and that'll be secondary road funds, that won't be,
That doesn't go back into the county, into the drainage
Drainage.
district?
I don't believe so.
I don't think so.
But I think Harold's point is what we've discussed, the boring privately to get the fund is not a frequent occurrence.
Right.
I think Ben's got a good idea. Let's go the first year and see how it looks, and if it gets to be overburdened, and we'll worry about it later.
But I'm glad that you
I
thought...
hate to get a big list and think people are fighting to get on the list, too.
Yeah, and I don't see it being an issue right now. Like I said, if it is a year from now where we're getting
It's an issue?
requests,
Put it on there.
then we set a cap.
I don't think people are lining up to bore underneath a hard surface road for $5,000. It's gonna have to be, I don't think Harold...
Like Harold said, 5,000 isn't enough that it's
No.
covering the whole.
They're gonna be a lot more out of
you
their
didn't-
pocket.
If you would've had perfect drainage, you'd have been happy with that, wouldn't you?
Well, I would've never done it.
Right. That's why I say, it's not that people are, it isn't a handout.
You're gonna pay more now out of your
It's a
pocket.
necessity.
Pardon?
You're gonna pay a lot more now out of your pocket.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Do we need to adopt that
Where are we at?
resolution 18-8?
oh, I got one other question.
It's not on to adopt, it's just on to review.
Just for review.
Then for reviewing, I got one other
Doesn't say
question.
adopt, it just says review.
No, but I think what he's asking
I
is,
had
would we
it
need
as
to...
review and change, but then we
okay.
switched it to just review, I guess, so.
Well, for reviewing, can I ask you one other question?
Sure.
On the new resolution, you struck the additional county participation, in accordance with chapter 468.600.
Right, because you don't wanna follow that anymore, you wanna follow the 50% up to 5,000.
Okay. So that's good to take that language.
It's one or the other.
Okay,
That's why I highlighted the one and struck the other one out.
okay,
And this
excellent.
was just basically for you guys to review and see if you guys were comfortable with this language, and I guess Peggy's right, we'd set it up to adopt
Adopt it later.
next week, and then I would also bring Harold's permit back up next week as the secondary item underneath that.
May I make a few suggestions?
You
Absolutely.
surely can.
When it says therefore be it resolved that the Board of Supervisors of Humboldt County does adopt
I just copied
instead of do.
Isn't this the same?
Says
And
do
it could
adopt.
be, but it just reads a little better when it says does.
Change that.
It's a minor change, but it would be, as long as you're bringing it back
Yep.
next time.
Yep. I would say, I thought the verbiage was,
It is the same, but
Okay.
it just would read a little better if it says does.
sure.
It flows better.
And then on
Yeah, it's-
the next paragraph, the second line, Humboldt County agrees to pay a maximum of $1,500 towards the cost of, just say crossing instead of the crossing, of crossing a granular surface roadway. I mean, it just, same thing, it just
Roads.
reads smoother.
Okay.
Take out the, and then when you put in 5,000, either make it the same as the 1,500, or change the 1,500, because you got one with 1,500.00, and you got 5,000, which is
Oh,
5,000.
I'm sorry, I see what
Just
you're
make them
saying.
both the
Just a...
X up and zero.
continuity
Decimal.
to the, yeah.
The decimal.
Either put the decimals in both or not,
Ben,
either
she's
one.
gonna shape you right up.
She's gonna be an English teacher.
It's- it's reading.
I was good at
Good point.
spelling, but...
ISAC, I have some...
Your punctuation was,
feedback, so-
that's okay, that's all right, we can't all be good at everything.
So, yeah, it's just years of looking at them, and then you won't have to go back and fix it.
They're on the books for 100 years.
Yeah, it looks good for the next person that reads this.
Mhm.
Well, this resolution was in for 10 years, so...
Yeah.
And this was your very first one, and a lot of the language is already in this other one, so,
I'm good at copy and paste.
yeah.
Is there any motionable item here?
We just need to put it on.
Just that
next
you
week.
agree with Peggy's verbiage, and we'll put it on for next week. And then
Doesn't need a motion, though.
And then
Nope.
Peggy can...
Awesome.
I like the review process on this.
I
the
cannot,
next one.
because this came to me as a non,
I can send you the
editable.
Word document that I
Okay,
have.
yep.
Perfect.
I'll check on the number unless you've already checked to make sure the number's correct.
I just looked at the last one that you went through.
Okay,
So I don't know.
then you're probably right then.
Okay.
Good review process.
Thank you, sir.
I got an email from Fibrian over on the east side of the county.
Okay.
They wanted to go on the edge of the road.
I told them no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, I know Paul always wanted everything next to the fence line. Why?
Because then we don't have to deal with it anymore.
Well, if
Once
it's
it's,
3 or 4
in,
feet down
it's,
right next to the blacktop, unless there's a tile there, you wouldn't anyway.
We got all of our gravel, we've got all of our cross pipes, we've got any time that we have to do any kind of work next to the roadway. I know every contractor wants to run down the shoulder because it's
Yeah.
easy, and they don't have to do their homework. In this instance, it was Goldfield access. I explained to them that, you know, we wanted it in the outside 18 inches, and it was something that cost us $20,000 every time you hit it. You want them away from any of the work that we're looking at doing. I talked to Wright County. Wright County does let them put it in the shoulder. Webster County is the same as us, the back of the right-of-way. Sioux County is the same as us, back of the right-of-way. Pocahontas lets them go wherever the hell they want.
I just wondered, 'cause I know Paul always said you gotta put it clear on the bank on the other side, so it's out of the way. Well, then it...
Usually when it's
Right,
further
there.
away, the chances of us hitting it
Mhm.
is considerably less. We did tell them that we've got some grading plans that show where some private tile is, otherwise they have to do their homework and find the tile and bore underneath every one of them.
Okay.
I tried to touch base with them towards the end of last week, phone rang, nobody answered. Yeah, everybody's kinda different. They wanted, Goldfield wanted us to sign a waiver that said they're not responsible for damage any tile lines, and my response is, if they'll sign a waiver that says we can hit it without any fines, that's fine.
How'd that go?
That kinda ended the discussion right there.
Pretty good.
He didn't leave the meeting very happy, but, with something that's gonna be in for the rest of all of our lives, and it's not cheap if we do hit it. You know, that fiber optic and high pressure gas lines are the two things that our guys get real skittish when they get to digging.
Yep.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
We don't want them around them enough,
No.
you know?
Yep.
Yep, so...
But that
Wanna
was...
clarify it.
Yeah, that was my reasoning for wanting it at the back of the right of way.
Well, good, we appreciate that.
Yep. I will
Anything
go
else?
back, tell them I talked to you, and it's gonna go back on the back.
It'd be best for us if it was. And there's not a lot of miles that they're talking about. I mean, I think there's less than 10 miles worth
Most
of
of it's trenched in anyway, or directional board. I think they directional bore it, but
They directional bore like under tile lines and under the roadway,
if they know they're there.
if they know they're
Other there, they go to them.
Yep, yeah. And
Yeah.
then 10 years from now, we
Been
see
there,
the hole in the
seen
right
that.
of way and
Yeah.
we call them and either we fix the tile line and send them a bill for it, or they send their crews out and fix it.
Yep.
So your schedule for this week is starting to get cranked up here?
Start milling, tomorrow, hopefully. We've reviewed 6 out of the 11 miles for the proposed pavement. They haven't brought the last 5 miles to us to review yet.
So
Yeah,
that's going clear to Gilmore? I mean, the
They go
rocks
just-
after they mill it, they're taking it over, or is that going over to the quarry just outside of Five Out?
I think the millings are going over to Gilmore. They're building the pile there.
Pile there and then haul it, mix
And then
it,
they'll haul it to wherever their next job is. The millings become the contractors.
contractor's possession.
Yep.
Well, I'll probably give you a call here after a bit, or stop by.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can we have a short recess before drainage?
Are you your torch?
Yeah, I'm gonna light this on fire and throw it in the gar, no, I'm just not gonna light it on fire.
Well, I was wondering, do you want to, quick do our committee meetings and then you're done? Or you wanna come back in, do you have anything else that you have?
Doesn't matter. No, I have nothing else for you.
Could we do our?
Yes, we can.
That way when
Okay.
Trish is here, we're one less with Rick and he's always windy.
I have very few meetings because it snowed. The only thing I did was go to the extension open house on Friday, in a case.
The only thing I had was, we had an animal meeting on, the 19th, and we would like to put it on the agenda for May 7th, and talk about, we have found property, trying to deal on it, and we might have to split the cost with the city of Humboldt. It could be $4,000 to $5,000 a piece. But the way we talked, it might be a loan, 'cause we can pay back as we get stuff in. We're still trying to get we're approved for the 501(c), but we haven't got the paperwork yet. And then we can do fundraisers and pay probably part of it back, or most of it. But that'll be on for discussion for the 7th, if we can put it on there.
Okay.
That's all I had.
I had no official meetings last week.
Warm, you were...
Very nice,
warm.
yes, it was very, very enjoyable in Florida. And I attended no official meetings while there.
I'll be honest, I'd stay if I were you.
Improved coming back.
On Friday, I had a ministerial meeting, over at the Methodist Church. And then, we had a meeting at, when I was leaving that meeting, Dave called and they had a truck that had some excess food that was left down in Fort Dodge. So I ran to Fort Dodge and picked up a load of pears up and brought them back up here. So our people have pears out at they have a lot of pears out at the food pantry, which also reminds me the truck will be in, tomorrow morning. I think it said 10:15 if I remember my text right. If you're able, there's a one-armed guy, would really appreciate someone being there to help do that. So, that's all I had.
What time tomorrow? 10:30?
10:15.
I
Last
can't make
time
it.
we were about 30 minutes late, so.
Could be
It
anywhere
could
from
be
10 to 11.
10 to 11, yeah.
I can't be there tomorrow.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll get a couple other people.
Did you drive to Fort Dodge to get those pears?
I sure did.
Nice stuff.
I took my sister along to
Okay.
help, so.
Well, that's a nice addition to maybe some of the other produce they normally get, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, you know, when this
Motion
guy
to go
just
into
dropped them
drainage.
off, so we have a motion to go into drainage,
Second?
and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Both same sign, we're in
Okay.
drainage.
And in drainage, you're gonna take a brief recess, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So, we can, if Rick is here, Hopper, we
I don't
can
know.
ask him if, the crossing over there, so that we